What's up, spectators? Welcome back to the episode of the Great Ace Attorney. I apologize for the video last time. It was stuttery and it was hard to listen to even for me. And, you know, I tried testing it today before starting this video. Everything seemed fine. I'm hoping that was just a one-off issue. So let's get back into it then. Tell us exactly what happened last night. It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late, but I hadn't had time to feed Darka, so I gave her some food. And then, all of a sudden, she scratched me and jumped out of my hands. People do say that cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments. Well, it's been 2 weeks, right? So the cat would be fine now. She was so fast. She disappeared through the ventilator before I could stop her. And that's how you acquired the rather nasty wound on the back of your hand, I take it. Yes, obviously. And I had read the, rules on the wall. I knew that I was not allowed Darka with me. Yes, modern science suggests that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's a precaution, really. So I listened and listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin. It was very quiet. I was sure if someone was there, he must be sleeping. So at that point, he thought it safe to try and lure the kitten back again by dangling the end of the toy through the ventilator and into the adjoining cabin. Darka always loves this toy, but didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy. I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return. So, the faint whistling sound Kojima wrote about in his diary, Miss Pavolva trying to retrieve her pet. Cats have a propensity to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened. Yes, so there was nothing else I could do. I just had to wait until she had calmed down. But then... I nearly passed out with shock. I heard her cry out, and then... Oh, it was such a dreadful bang. Then afterwards, nothing. It was totally silent. Kojima was. Indeed. From the appearance of the brown mark on the floor, it seems likely that what you heard was the victim stepping on the glass bell and tripping up. The writing is awkward. Something about the translation, I don't know. The SS Bria is a large vessel, but even she can pitch and roll violently without warning. If Mr. Osogi was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got under his feet, the combination of unfortunate factors could easily have caused him to fall over. But what became of the kitten afterwards? In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator. Yet Darka's nowhere to be seen. I must have forgotten to lock my case. And now she's disappeared again. Gracious. That cat is as insufferably restless as I am. Well, he knows something about himself at least. When I woke this morning, I heard that a young man in the cabin next to mine had died. But I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back. Hold on a minute. What about the snake? You're right, where is it? If the snake isn't your friend, Miss Pavolva, then whose is it, and where did it come from? What on earth is such a dangerous creature doing on board this ship? Oh, I didn't say? Snake is my friend. His name is Piroshko. That snake belongs to you? He escaped from cage when emergency alarm sounded. I was looking for him. I did not expect to find him in here. How did that snake get into this cabin? But animals are not permitted on board. We are at sea for 1 year. You want to be so long without close friend? Without someone who understands? It's very true. Couldn't you find someone a little more human who understands you better? Ah, Ryunosuke, so judgmental. But my dear burly fellow, a gargantuan venomous snake, surely you can appreciate the danger you're putting everyone in. No venom. Piroshko does not have venom. He is harmless, very long, but very gentle. He is adorable, like Granny. It's venomless? Yes. Now he's hungry, so he's in a bad mood. But once I feed him, you'll see Big Smile. And you feed him what? Milk, I suppose? Like they say, they milk chickens? Ridiculous. Snakes that drink milk are only in stupid stories. Piroshki eats mouses. Big, fat, round mouses. Ah. Is that what the mousetrap in the passageway out there is for? Of course. How else can I catch my friend's favorite food? Nothing says top of the food chain like the look in their eyes right now. It refuses to drink milk, it can't hear a whistle, it can't climb up a bell cord, and it's not even venomous. How the deuce did something so inept land a starring role? It's not my fault. I did not make up stories. My Piroshko has nothing to do with this incident. So that's what happened. That's the truth behind my best friend's tragic death. Ducka 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 duck. Ducka 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 duck. Oh, different one there. Miss Pavolva. I understand the difficult situation you found yourself in, and I do sympathize. But please remember this. A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what the circumstances, I cannot forgive you. But what are you talking about, Miss Mikotoba? What lies? Miss Pavolva just confessed everything. It was just a series of unfortunate events. An accident. I'm no great detective like Mr. Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. But even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? To be perfectly honest, yes. There's a discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story. I'm sure of it. I just can't quite put my finger on it. I confess. I was intending to let Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues on this matter. I'm only present here for a very specific reason. The truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction. I do hope you've not been finding your shackles too uncomfortable. Not again. Especially as they're on your wrists as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call. You were? Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours, was he not? Yes. Kazuma was my closest friend. I owed him my freedom, even. In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo. Whatever that may be. The key to this is the discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story. I'm sure. You've said that already. If I can chase that down, Obviously, the truth would become clear. Obviously. Naruhodo, shut up and get to it. The truth about how you really died. About how that seat in your cabin really came to be. All right, let's keep wasting time. Yes, in truth, I do believe you can waste more time, Naruhodo. Yes, I think that may be true. Do I really waste lots of time? Yes, I think I do. So then shall we begin? Yes. What we should ponder first is the victim who... Okay. The cabin was bolted from the inside. Was this truly an unfortunate accident? Or was it in fact no accident at all? That is what we must establish in the first instance. You already said that. We've already established it, haven't we? The man tripped over the kitten that had climbed into his cabin via the ventilator. Tragic, yes, but still an accident. Hold it! Let's just take a step back. It doesn't make sense if that's really what happened, does it? I do like this song, though. All right, I'm cooling off because of the music. I'm going to have to ask you to spell it out for me, I'm afraid. Yes, it's starting to take shape now. There's a clear contradiction between the facts and Miss Pavlova's story. Is there really? Could you say there's a discrepancy? The evidence is right there in Kazuma's cabin. His death couldn't possibly have been a mere accident. Really? Let's show our hand. Time to present the evidence. The evidence that proves unequivocally that the victim's death was no mere accident. Okay. I think I am looking for... That's actually a very good question. What the heck do they want from me? Yes! What point are you trying to make with that evidence? I'm starting to see how Kazuma's death really happened, I think. I think that you are starting to see nothing of the sort. Okay, shut up. Shut up, shut up, shut up! Either the absence of something you would expect to find at the scene of an accident, or the presence of something you wouldn't. Most compendiously put. I see. I confess your rather languid I see doesn't fill me with confidence, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't worry, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe in you. More than Mr. Sholmes does, anyway. It's starting to take shape. Oh my god. Wow, it takes a long time to get back to the evidence presenting. Okay. I don't know what they want from me. Something there that should not have been there. Seriously, like, the scuff mark is supposed to be there. He fell. There's the bell. Yes! Oh! Okay. I kind of guessed on that one. Seems to have worked out. Yeah, right, because if he had died, he wouldn't have written that, of course. The truth is clearly recorded in this photographic print. There's no way that Mr. Osogi could have left his message on the floor. That script, it's Russian. Indeed it is. The word written means wardrobe. I see what you mean. Most people would leave a dying message in their native language, Japanese in this case. But maybe he was studying Russian. It is a simple language. He could have picked it up very fast. That doesn't seem likely. That's actually not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not. What do you mean? Exactly what I said before. There's no way that Mr. Osogi could have left this message on the floor. And the reason why is clearly explained in here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae resulting in instant death. Instant. Which means, after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't possibly have written anything, because he was already dead. That's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Asogi's cabin. A remnant of something that couldn't possibly have been there, if what Miss Pavolva told us was true. So, Susatos noticed it too then. Putting this message on the floor aside, there's something else that gives the truth away. Another piece of evidence that proves this was no accident. In other words, what? Oh dear.
Yes!
Yes! This piece of broken glass next to the mark on the floor. But that's the glass bell the kitten had around its neck. We already know all about that. It was broken in half when the victim tripped over the cat and fell. So, we already have a satisfactory explanation. Where's the flaw in that logic? Unfortunately, there's a very big flaw. A fatal flaw. If that's really what happened, then how did one half of the bell end up back here in this cabin? Remember that we found the other half of the glass bell in that waste paper basket. Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavolva? Oh no. Both these pieces of evidence clearly point to the same conclusion. That when Mr. Asogi died last night in his cabin, there was someone else in the room. And that same person deliberately arranged the scene to disguise the truth, in order to cover up his or her own guilt. There was someone else present in Mr. Asogi's. You're wasting time. Someone else was there? Of course we know this. What are you talking about? Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. There was no way in or out. Yes. And the only other person in cabin when young student died was you.
Yes!
It's true, I was in the cabin when it happened. You were shut inside the cabin wardrobe, to be precise. But I don't know Russian. There's no way I would have left that message. Not would have, there's no way you could have left that message, to be precise about the details. Would you mind? Forgive me, my dear fellow. As I was saying, the person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor. I was about to say wardrobe, in an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I had been asleep in there the entire time. And then, the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor, for fear of it becoming evidence that would show how Mr. Asogi really died. But why wouldn't this person have taken all the pieces of the bell away? Leaving half behind was always going to raise questions. Yes, well, it was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. The single small lamp suspended from the ceiling would barely have cast any light onto the floor there. Little wonder then that the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item. You all suspect me, don't you? Seaman Strogonov. Nina is woman of sea. She's daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skills and she went away to join the ballet company. But before, she was dancer on this ship, a member of ship's band. You do not accuse ship's angel of being criminal? Ah, so that's it. You say that when young student died, Nina was there in his cabin. But that's not possible. I give my tooth. Well, this is almost interesting. Ah, this is almost interesting. Wrong emphasis. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How could you be so sure? You are great detective. You should know. Look truth in eyes. Cabin bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. Nobody could go into cabin. Not Nina, not anyone. Or you want to tell me that killer can walk through locked doors? Yet, it's impossible. He's right. But wait, I've read about this in detective stories. People often tie thread around door latches so they can open and close them from the outside. Thread? Are you stupid? These bulkheads are not barn doors. Certainly not. These are watertight doors, as one would expect to find on any modern steamship. Constructed of heavy steel with not a gap in sight, no threads or needles or magnets could have been used. No, of course not. I thought so too. But Mr. Naruhodo suggested it earlier, so... Susato, how could you shift it onto me like that? So, Seaman Strogonov has a valid point. The cabin door couldn't have been bolted shut from the outside. Not necessarily. I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. And in this very cabin, we can see the traces of the method I have in mind having been used before. I don't believe it. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe you know what I mean, don't you? A way to shut the bolts of the cabin door from the outside. One way does spring to mind, yes. Do you really know what Mr. Sholmes means, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, and so should you. Because we've seen it happen. Indeed we have. So, would you care to do the honors, Mr. Naruhodo? Point out the telling signs of the method that was used to slide the cabin door bolt across from the outside. As we recall, it's from the shifting ship.
Yes!
Look at the bookcase there. See how all the books and things on it have toppled over. That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop before. Yes, that's right. It's a very powerful vessel after all. When the engines are thrown into reverse, a violent jolt goes across the entire ship. Any small objects that aren't fastened down are bound to fall over. I believe, yes, it's what's known as the force of inertia, acting on the objects. Is there nothing Susato doesn't know? Or that isn't in her book, at least? Well, whatever it's called, the same force that pushed over those books on the bookcase also made something else in this cabin move. The bolt on the cabin door. It was very obvious just after the emergency stop that the ship made earlier. We had come into this cabin not long before, and we hadn't bolted the door. But then... Hello, is anybody there? Shout if you need assistance. That sounds like... Inspector Hosonaga. Oh yes. That's it. When the ship stopped suddenly, the bolt flew across and locked the door. It's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's sudden change of speed. Or the force of inertia, if you want to call it that. Are you trying to say that last night, after Mr. Osogi was killed... the SS Buria made another emergency stop. When I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin, I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelves had toppled over, and all the ornaments... It was almost as if someone had run their hand across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over. Oh yes, I remember that. And I stood them all up again, didn't I? Then, when we came into this cabin, we were surprised to see the same thing in here. All the books and everything had toppled over, just like in Mr. Osogi's cabin. Do you have anything to say about this, Miss Pavlova? Are you out of your mind? You say Buria made emergency stop. It does seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? Unless you're saying that the culprit is actually someone from the engine room. Oh, it's simple enough. Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside? Used to trigger the emergency alarm. Oh yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there, telling you only to press the button in times of emergency. On dark nights when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on the eyes of his lookout alone. hence the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow any crewman to raise the alarm. The sort of button one is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity. Wait, it was you? When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interests of safety. The emergency alarm bell rings, and the vessel comes to a complete stop. As indeed it did a little earlier today. Mr. Sholmes, surely it wasn't you who... You? As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. To be pressed, whatever the occasion. He sounds almost proud of himself. How dare you mess with ship? I report you to Captain. You're in much trouble now. Now, I'm sure all that can wait until later. Let's not overlook the fact that we have now learned a valuable lesson. When the vessel makes an emergency stop, the bolts on the cabin door slide closed. So, what we must now consider... It all comes down to one thing. Last night, after what happened to Mr. Asogi, did this ship make an emergency stop, or did it not? You are idiots. Burya is a huge ship with many passengers. If we make emergency stop, even in the middle of night, there would be chaos everywhere. What are your thoughts, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, it's certainly possible that some kind of emergency happened last night. We have evidence to support that idea. Really? What evidence, Mr. Naruhodo? It should be the book log, the log entries for the guard in the hallway. Do show us, my good man, what evidence promotes the theory that some emergency gripped this vessel last night. We're looking for this.
Yes!
Seaman Strogonov, it's your duty to patrol the first-class area of the ship. Isn't that right? That is correct. Why? And the ship's log here, this would be where you record the details of your duties. What are you doing with that? That is mine. You rather carelessly left it atop the little makeshift bureau in the passageway out there. But as responsible passengers, we took it into our care with a mind to return it to you later. I left it there on purpose. That's where I put it always. The point is, looking at what you usually record, it's clear that under normal circumstances, you write the phrase "nothing to report" every 30 minutes. But from 2 o'clock last night until first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all. Nothing recorded in the log? That is... because nothing happened. But if nothing happened, you would normally write "nothing to report," wouldn't you? Indeed so, which tells us that shortly after 2 a.m., something happened here aboard the SS Burya. Something sufficiently significant to make you forget to film the ship's log, in fact. Are you suggesting that the ship really did make an emergency stop in the middle of the night? Stop talking rubbish! If I'm perfectly honest, I find that a little hard to believe myself. Why? Well, because if something as major as an emergency stop really had happened, surely all of us would have noticed. That's very true. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we all know what it feels like now. The ship lurched so violently, and the alarm bell was so loud, I can't imagine that anybody would sleep through that, even if it had happened in the dead of night. Well, no, that's a good point. This is when that knockout gas theory comes in, because everyone seems to have very groggy minds when they woke up in the morning. What of the throbbing? What do you mean? Your head, man. The throbbing of your head since this morning. We have all suffered with it. Oh yes, I have had a headache, you're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself since I woke up today. Nor have I. My head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn. Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? Just as I suspected. He's right. My head's been throbbing today, too. And since eating dinner yesterday evening, everything has felt sort of hazy. I can't really remember anything that had happened after I climbed back inside the wardrobe. Then the first thing I noticed this morning was the throbbing pain in my head. I had already been dragged out of the wardrobe and had those handcuffs put on me by that point. Why didn't I wake up when all that was happening to me? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, you boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you? Oh, well, yes. Sorry. The stowaway class of accommodation doesn't usually include meals. What did you survive on? Well, Kazuma looked after me. He was always happy to share his meals. So, you enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken dish that was served yesterday evening, I take it? Yes, in fact. I had all of that. Kazuma wasn't fond of chicken. Oh, really? So the victim didn't eat any of the chicken at all? That's right. He didn't touch it. Is that relevant? My dear fellow, does that not strike you? Mr. Sholmes, do you mean to say that there was something wrong with the chicken? I do. No. Really? Is that really true? The meal prepared for the passengers last night had been tampered with. Tampered with by the addition of a soporific designed to induce a very deep slumber in those who consumed it. A sleeping drug? Do you mean whoever did this laced every meal with the sleeping drug so no one would notice the ship's emergency stop? Mr. Naruhodo, of course that's not what Mr. Sholmes means. What a far-fetched idea. Precisely. Lacing every meal of every passenger on board with a soporific drug would certainly be impossible. Unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator. Mr. Sholmes. Well, Seaman? I'm sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. If you refuse to talk, there would have to be an inquiry made through the shipping company, of course. And were that to happen, every member of the crew and the captain himself would be hauled over the coals for aiding and abetting a renegade. Please, no more. I will tell everything. I cannot make problems like this for everyone anymore. These crewmen are your former comrades, I believe. Yes, so when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me. We all agreed to help, everyone together. She threw away everything, her fame in the ballet, Mother Russia. We wanted to help our angel. I don't believe it. You are right. We put sleeping drug in chicken last night. I remember now. I did notice chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point. Just a huge pill. We could not make all drug, how do you say, dissolve? Talk about heavy seasoning. At midnight in waters near Shanghai, we brought our angel on board. She was helped by comrade on shore with small fishing boat. While all the passengers of the SS Buria slept soundly, thanks to the almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion their evening meals had contained. So, if that's what had happened, the only people awake on the ship last night were the crew, people who disliked chicken, and the newly boarded passenger, Miss Pavolva. And that means it would have been possible for you. You could have used the emergency stop trick to lock Kazuma's cabin door. But how does that make sense? Surely every cabin door would have ended up locked in that case, and there would have been complete chaos. Oh, I wouldn't say so. Just like us, all the other passengers would have eaten their evening meal of chicken in their cabins, after which they would have been overwhelmed by tiredness because of the sleeping drug. Quite. And accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night. The overwhelming majority of passengers would habitually sleep with their cabin doors bolted anyway, and so not one of them would have found it remarkable to find the door locked in the morning. In summary, in order to fasten the bolt of a single cabin door on the ship, the culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours of the morning. You have talked a long time and said many things. What is point? The point is what I said earlier. There was somebody else present on the scene when the victim lost his life last night. Someone who left a message in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate another. Someone who tried desperately to hide the broken fragments of glass that would reveal the culprit's identity. And someone who abused the ship's emergency stop procedure in order to lock a door. All told, a busy night. But I don't know about any of this. I am just a little girl. You like to speak with your long English words and explain your clever ideas. But I am Sailor, and sailors don't listen to long, boring stories. We don't believe. Sailors like me, we trust only what we see with our eyes. A laudable trait. I'm quite of the same disposition, my good man. Observation to me is everything. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Do you hear it? That accusatory cry of guilt on the wind. What accusatory cry of guilt? Sorry, you've lost me. Proof of involvement, man. But you can't hear such a call with your ears. No. You must hear it with your eyes, for observation is the basis of all deduction. What are you talking about? I believe the time has come. For a dance? For one final logic and reasoning spectacular? To expose the truth? So, Mr. Naruhodo, your assistance, if you please. With what exactly? With observation, my dear fellow, just as I said, of these two prevaricators. Observation. If you remember, Mr. Naruhodo, we know that somebody tried to fabricate evidence, don't we? By tampering with the scene of Mr. Asogi's death. What we're looking for is some trace of evidence that one of these two was there when it happened. Precisely. You are delightfully quick to grasp my meaning. All right, I'll see what I can see. So we're looking for a trace of evidence that shows someone else was there last night when he died. Ah.
Yes!
That was quick. Seaman Strogonov, you seem to have quite a large purple stain on the back of your white uniform. Ah, yes, I, don't know where the dirt comes from. So, nothing in particular comes to mind about the stain. What are you trying to say? It would appear that the significance of the stain has escaped your attention, Seaman. Allow us to make it plain. It's a very large purple stain on the back of Seaman Strogonov's uniform, and I think what made it is clear. Indeed it is. So, Mr. Naruhodo, present the evidence that proves it. All right then, the evidence that proves it. Where's the bottle?
Yes!
It's this photograph and the ink it shows. That's what caused the stain on your uniform. A rather unusual color of ink, purple. The penny drops at last. Now you see the significance. The Russian word on the floor next to the victim's body was written in purple ink. And the stain on the back of your uniform is ink of exactly the same color. If the ink had been dry, it couldn't possibly have stained your uniform in that way. Which means you must have been present in the cabin, in the moments immediately after the ink was spilled. All right, yes. It was me. I did it. Everything. I arranged everything in dead student's cabin to make it look like the wardrobe man did it. Then I pressed button to make Buria do emergency stop and bolt cabin door shut. I did everything so no one would suspect our angel. Biff, please. Don't worry. Let me do talking. It was after 1 in the morning. I was on duty patrolling passageway. Then our angel came to me. She was white like sheet. Biff, please, you must help me. I went with her. The door to cabin number 1 was open. When I looked inside, I saw student boy on floor. What happened here? Please don't tell anyone. My little one, my little furry friend. Everything that happened in cabin is like Angel told you. The kitten escaped through the ventilator into Mr. Osogi's cabin. Then he tripped over it and broke his neck when he fell to the floor. Yes, that is right. That is an unbelievable way to go for someone as cool as him. I cannot believe they made this happen like this. He tripped and died. After the incident when the cat ran away, Miss Pavlova then visited the cabin next to hers, only to find its occupant lying lifeless on the floor. She said she was worried when she heard the sound of something falling on floor. That's when she went to look. No? The door was not locked, so she opened to look, and you already know what happened after. There's just one thing, if you wouldn't mind. When you went to Mr. Osogi's cabin, Miss Pavlova, was he already dead? Why? I already told you. When Nina opened the door of student's cabin and looked inside, I was asking Miss Pavlova. Well, Miss Pavlova? Oh. Yes, that is right. I saw him. It was dark, and he was wearing black, but he was on the floor, not moving. I was scared. I understand, and I believe you. So, is that finally it now? Have we discovered the real truth about Kazuma's death at last? Something very nearly slipped my mind. Mr. Sholmes? This photograph. I took this myself, you know. The cause of death was a broken neck, therefore the victim died instantly. And the unfortunate incident that precipitated these events, a kitten on which the victim stumbled. However, if those are the facts, there's one particular area in this photograph that seems to me somewhat unnatural. What do you mean, unnatural? What are your thoughts on the matter, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, if Kazuma tripped and fell, and by some terrible stroke of bad luck broke his neck, which part of this photographic print seems unnatural? His neck, I guess?
Yes!
It must be here, surely. Allow me to offer you a piece of advice regarding the pursuit of detection, my dear fellow. When noting a crucial point, it can be helpful to keep your eyes open. They were open. And it can be equally helpful to use them. Sorry, I'll try that. I think it's plain what Mr. Sholmes means by unnatural, isn't it? The word written in a foreign language underneath his fingertip, surely. That particular crass detail was orchestrated by the culprit. No, I mean to identify another point. Imagine, if you will, losing your footing yourself. Would you land as the victim has? What of your hands? You look like the sort of fellow who stumbles with some regularity. This should be an easy task. Why do I? His clenched fist?
Yes!
Alright, if he really fell due to an unfortunate accident, then his fist just doesn't seem quite right. The exact same thought occurred to me. In a fall, one's instinct is to open the palms flat. Yet here we see the victim with his left hand tightly balled into a fist. Almost, you might say, as though he were gripping something. What do you mean? Simply that I took the liberty of investigating the victim's fist a short while ago. And what, pray, do you imagine I found there, my dear fellow? Mr. Sholmes, show us, please. Why, of course, my dear madam. Would I keep you in suspense? This is what I found. A crescent moon with a little gemstone in the middle. You're right, a crescent moon. It's very pretty, but what does it tell us? It tells us nothing. I'm not so sure. That crescent moon looks familiar somehow. I'm sure I've seen it somewhere before. Observation, Mr. Naruhodo. That is the key. The truth is now tantalizingly close. How did that crescent moon come to be in Kazuma's clenched fist? This is the final clue, the last piece of the puzzle. Ask yourself, what does this little crescent moon mean? What significance has it? And observe. Find the answer with your own eyes. Looking at her other ear, voila.
Yes!
Miss Pavolva, on your ear there? I see you have a crescent moon as well. And on your other ear, there seems to be a crescent moon missing. The little link holding it on must have broken, I suppose. Now, the missing crescent moon was found in the victim's clenched fist. Clearly, there's only one logical conclusion. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes. Miss Pavolva, Mr. Asogi must have grasped that crescent moon and pulled it from your ear. Perhaps just moments before he fell to the floor. In other words, last night in Mr. Asogi's cabin, you witnessed the moment when the victim fell with your own eyes. In fact, you were quite literally at arm's length from him. But then the question is, why did Mr. Asogi do that? Why did he pull your earring from your ear and hold it in his clenched fist during his final moments? No one can protect you now. Please, Miss Pavolva, tell us the truth. Last night, what did you do to Kazuma? And with that, we're at about the 49-minute mark, so I'm glad to do a few more minutes than before to make up for that messed up video from last time. But we'll save it for the next video, because I'm pretty sure the explanation of what actually happened will be fairly long, if this is in fact the end of Case 2. So stay tuned for the next episode, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye!